Most people believe that if they could just become more disciplined, more motivated, or more focused, their financial life would finally change. They think the problem is effort. But effort isn't the issue. The real issue is that most financial behavior doesn't come from conscious decision-making at all. It comes from patterns that were formed quietly, repeatedly, and often long before money ever felt important. This is why people can read books, listen to podcasts, and understand exactly what they should be doing, yet still find themselves repeating the same behaviors. It's not because they're failing. It's because the brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Willpower is exhausting because it requires constant conscious control, and the brain hates that. The human brain evolved to conserve energy, not spend it. That's why habits exist. They allow us to function without thinking through every decision from scratch. Money habits are no different. Spending patterns, saving behaviors, risk tolerance, and even income ceilings are often automated responses rather than deliberate choices. When someone says they can't stick to a budget, or they always fall back into old habits, what they're really experiencing is cognitive efficiency. The brain is choosing what feels familiar because familiarity requires less energy than change. And willpower loses every time it tries to compete with efficiency. Identity plays a much bigger role in money than most people realize. The brain works hard to protect identity because identity equals predictability. If someone unconsciously identifies as bad with money, not wealthy, or someone who struggles, their decisions will subtly align with that identity, even if they consciously want something different. This doesn't happen through dramatic self-sabotage. It happens through small choices. Avoiding opportunities, delaying decisions, choosing short-term relief over long-term benefit. Not because the person is irresponsible, but because the brain is trying to stay consistent. Consistency feels safe. Change threatens the internal story, and the brain resists that threat automatically. This is where awareness becomes powerful. Awareness doesn't require motivation. It doesn't require discipline, and it doesn't require immediate change. Awareness simply means noticing. Noticing when you avoid. Noticing when you repeat. Noticing when discomfort shows up and your instinct is to escape it. When you observe a pattern without judgment, something important happens. The brain stops defending the behavior. Judgment creates resistance. Awareness creates space. And space is where change begins. This is why people who try to fix themselves often stay stuck, while people who calmly observe themselves begin to shift naturally. Real financial change doesn't come from dramatic overhauls. It comes from small, repeated actions that feel safe enough for the brain to accept. Saving a little more than usual. Waiting slightly longer before spending. Pausing before saying no to opportunity. Each small action sends a quiet signal to the brain. This is normal now. Over time, the brain updates its definition of safety. And when safety changes, behavior changes automatically. This is why wealthy behavior often looks boring from the outside. There's no emotional rush. No constant decision fatigue. Just repetition. One of the most misunderstood signals in personal finance is discomfort. Discomfort is often interpreted as failure, but psychologically, discomfort is frequently a sign that the brain is leaving familiar territory. That's not danger. That's adaptation. When something feels uncomfortable but not harmful, it usually means a pattern is being interrupted. An interruption is how habits dissolve. Learning to sit with mild discomfort, without escaping it, is one of the fastest ways to change long-standing money behaviors. If you've struggled with money for a long time, it doesn't mean you lack discipline. It means your brain learned patterns that once felt protective, and those patterns don't disappear through force. They fade through awareness, repetition, and patience. Change doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to be consistent enough for the brain to feel safe adopting something new. This is the psychology behind the money.